Hi, my name is Megan, and my goal is to help people garden better in Utah. I've lived in Utah for most of my life, and I think it's an amazing place to grow and garden, but it is a little bit different. If you're new to gardening here, or you just moved here from somewhere else, you need to understand how Utah is different from a lot of other places. And that starts with the rain, or the lack thereof. We just don't get a whole lot of rain here. Utah is one of the top 3 driest states in the country, only topped by Nevada and maybe Arizona. Here in northern Utah, we only get about 15 inches on average of precipitation a year. Now, the obvious consequence of that is that we have to be a lot more careful with how we water our gardens. We have to be more intentional. Things like drip systems and mulch are just really not optional here. You just have to do it because that's how we conserve the resources that we have. Watering deeply, watering less frequently, those are the types of things we have to do here that maybe you wouldn't have to think so much about in a different place where we get more rain. Now, there are some less obvious consequences to the lack of rainfall as well, and that is in our soil. So our soil tends to be really alkaline and somewhat salty because we don't get that rain to wash through and wash away some of those salts. Without that rain, without that available water, we don't get a lot of plant life here. It's mostly grasses, it's mostly scrub oaks or bushes, sage, and those don't even break down that easily, which means we don't have a whole lot of organic matter in our soils. That organic matter can make a huge difference in your garden or in your soil texture. And so when we don't get that, the soil textures that we have naturally are really overemphasized. And our soil textures are actually determined by Lake Bonneville. So if you don't know what Lake Bonneville is, it was a massive lake that covered most of northeastern Utah millions of years ago. And as that lake rose and fell, it deposited different types of soil in different places along the Wasatch Front. So you may have some spots that have really heavy clay, but not very far away, you're going to have some spots that are sandy and even gravelly. On my property, we have really heavy clay soil, but just 2 streets over, I have a neighbor who has really rocky soil, really gravelly soil. And then just a mile down the road, I know somebody who has sandy soil to the point where she even finds seashells. Those soil textures are really going to affect the way that you water or the way that you garden. The best thing to do is to add organic matter, but you need to know your soil type. We actually have plenty of minerals in our soil. Some people say you need to add calcium to combat blossom end rot on tomatoes or squash, or that you need more potassium or more phosphorus. We actually have so much of that. Please don't add more, especially with lime or calcium. We don't need any more of that in our soils. The problem is because our soils are so alkaline, sometimes our plants can't take up those nutrients. They need more acidic soils than what we have to be able to access the nutrients that are in our soils, which means sometimes we have to add extra nutrients like chelated iron, because even though we have plenty of iron there, it's not in a form that the plants can take up with the pH levels that we have in our soils. We're also really high elevation. The Salt Lake Valley is nearly 5,000 feet above sea level, which is pretty high, and the sun is intense. We don't get a lot of cloud cover, we're not getting a lot of rain, and so that sun can be too much for a lot of plants. Even plants that are labeled full sun aren't going to do well with the full sun that we get here in Utah. A lot of times, if something says full sun, you actually want to give it some shade. Even sun-loving plants like tomatoes will do better if you put some shade cloth up and give them a little relief from that intense sun in the middle of the summer. That high elevation can also result in some pretty drastic temperature changes. We can easily drop 20 or 30 degrees from our daytime temps down into our nighttime lows. And we can have really late frosts. You can't really base your planting off of the last frost like everybody says. That last frost might not happen until May, when we've already had 2 or 3 weeks of really nice temperatures. All of a sudden it can drop for no reason overnight and you lose all your plants. Don't let all that dissuade you from trying to garden in Utah though. Utah is an amazing place to garden. We have rich soils, we have an awesome climate, we get cold in the winter so we can grow some of those fruit trees that they can't grow in warmer places. We get enough rainfall that supports a wide variety of plant life, and we get to enjoy all 4 seasons of the year. It's an amazing place. If you want more tips for gardening in Utah, follow along.